Cleary from Rockville High School, and I would like the Council to explain why they believe they have the authority to override the Constitution of the United States of America. I refer to the Fifth Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Others like yourself have been shut down by the courts. In 2009, the New York Court of Appeals ruled a curfew law nearly identical to the one proposed in Montgomery County was unconstitutional due to its infringement on a minor's constitutional right to move about freely in public. In 1998, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled that a D.C. curfew law was unconstitutional. The Division I Washington State Court of Appeals ruled curfew laws unconstitutional in the 1997 ruling of State v. J.D. The Washington State Supreme Court ruled curfews unconstitutional in the 1973 ruling of Seattle v. Pullman. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled curfews unconstitutional in the 1997 ruling of Nunez v. City of San Diego. And the State Supreme Court ruled curfews unconstitutional in the 2003 ruling of City of Sumner v. Walsh.
I will take a crack at a piece of this. There are two lawyers up here, and I've actually, I do very much enjoy the law. But here's the predicate to the question that I want to clarify. This is not our proposal. Okay? I would be grateful if you would propose that question to our county executive. We are reviewing his proposal. And by no means has it been decided that we will do this. We do appreciate that there are serious issues here. Serious constitutional issues, serious issues with respect to your personal rights, serious issues with respect to public safety. And what we're trying to do is weigh all of those as we consider this. I will give the chair of the Public Safety Committee, who has been a rather outspoken opponent of curfew, an opportunity to address your answer. But I do want all of you to understand that, again, we have introduced this measure, our council president introduced this measure as a courtesy to the county executive who sent it over to us. Okay? Sent it over to us because something happened in a couple parts of our community that made him very concerned that we might need to do something like this because Prince George's County has a curfew, because the District of Columbia has a curfew. And gee, does that mean that Montgomery County should have one? So that was his motivation, and we're trying to step back and decide whether or not it's the best course of action for our community. Let me turn to Chair Andrews.
Thank you, Councilmember Leonard. Well, thank you for the question and the research that you've done on it. I would say that while there certainly are constitutional questions about curfews, and as you noted, quite a few have been overturned, there have been a number that have been upheld around the country as well. So the decision for me is really about whether it's wise policy or not. There are some curfews that have withstood constitutional challenges. So I think one has to look at whether a curfew is justified in Montgomery County. And I waited for a long time to hear what I considered to be a persuasive argument from the county executive. I didn't hear one. I was surprised when the proposal came over, given that major crime is on the decline, arrests of young people during the curfew hours is on the decline, gang-related incidents decreased by 50% from 2008 to 2010, and the evidence of the effectiveness of curfews across the country is at best very mixed, and the general weight is that they have little effect. So I think the curfew that has been proposed is unjustified by the crime situation in Montgomery County. I think it was a hastily proposed measure in response to a serious but isolated event in downtown Silver Spring. I believe there are far better alternatives to a curfew to addressing concerns about youth crime committed by young people or by gangs, which may or may not. Depends on the situation. In fact, the council in its recent budget approved 20 additional police officers for the Silver Spring District, 12 for downtown Silver Spring. And last week, the Public Safety Committee heard an update from our police department, which is an excellent department, which is great. And the results are very encouraging. The number of robberies in August and September declined from an average 6 per month in previous years to 1.5 per month this past August and September. The number of aggravated assaults was down by a similar percentage. Also, in the area where we added officers in the Rich Cheney area along Route 29, we saw impressive reductions in several categories. So I think there are better alternatives, and not just enforcement, but also making sure that we maintain to the best extent we possibly can, even in these difficult fiscal times, prevention programs, after-school programs, some of which unfortunately have been cut because of the budget. But here's a statistic that I think is very telling, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. If you look at when crime occurs, if you look at the percentage of crime that occurs between midnight and 6 o'clock, and this is crimes that are committed, it's called youth crime, but it's actually people 22 and under 22, so it overrepresents the number that would be under 18. But only 5.8% to 7% of crime that is committed by young people, and that's again defined as under 22, has occurred between midnight and 6 a.m. in the last 2 years. Between 25 to 50%, depending on where you are in the county, is committed after school hours, between 2 and 6. That's actually where we should be focusing our resources and efforts, and not supporting unjustified.
And other than that, my colleague has no views on this issue. But what I will do is hopefully hear a slightly different point of view, because on all of these issues, there are different points of view in the community as a whole. There are different points of view up here, and it's melding all those different points of view that is part of what we do all the time. Councilmember Craig Rice.
Well, first and foremost, and as I see you sitting down, I just wanted to let you know that the information that you were able to garner is very impressive, and let me give you kudos for that. You know, if you ever need a job as a researcher, please let me know. I can definitely give you my recommendation. But you know, part of the challenge is that when we talk about constitutionality, we've never had a Supreme Court decision that's come down on this, and so. That's still kind of up in the air, and some of the district courts have weighed in different directions when it comes to the constitutionality of curfews. But I think that when we look at the larger picture of whether or not a curfew makes sense from Montgomery, and my colleague Councilmember Andrews does a great job of framing, well, why exactly do we think that we need a curfew? And I would say that this is not about restriction of rights. I see many of you with signs that say save my rights or protect my rights. I don't want my rights to be violated. And keep in mind that this is about protection of you. That's what those of us who have started to understand why a curfew might be necessary, and listening and working with our police officers, understand that teen-on-teen violence is real. It does exist. A few weeks ago, a young man that was 13 was attacked by 2 other youth, I think 15 and 16 or somewhere around there, at a McDonald's, and robbed for 32 cents. It was about a little after midnight, close to 1 o'clock in the morning. And so while we have examples, and I'm not saying that just because those examples are out there and these things happen, means that means that we have to have a curfew. I'm open to the discussion in terms of understanding why we need to protect your rights in terms of being able to be out, but we also need to make sure that we're protecting you. And that's what I want all of you to understand, is that there's a greater good that's behind this. This isn't about trying to impede, it's about trying to help. And so I know that it might seem a little uncomfortable. It sounds like, I think back to when my parents told me, no, I'm trying to help you, I'm not trying to restrict you. And now I see it, but I mean, that's really where this is coming from, and we really feel a duty to do that as much as possible. And I know that the police, while a lot of this conversation has been about criminals, I think that it needs to shift from talking about criminals to about victims. And each and every one of you that's out late at night, that could be out at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, could be a victim. And that's what I'm more concerned about than addressing the criminality.
Needless to say,